Hello everyone out there in the global and digital world. Hope everybody is okay in these interesting times. So in today's video I would like to talk about an important topic that I've been contemplating about for a very long time. And the topic is, how should spirituality in our time look? What are its basic characteristics? So what would be a modern day spiritual teaching? So I've been contemplating this topic as a spiritual practitioner and lately as an author and spiritual teacher, and I come up with some solutions, with some characteristics, and today I would like to share 4 characteristics that every spiritual teaching nowadays should have. So 4 characteristics. So the first characteristic, which I think is essential for spiritual teachings nowadays, is that they have to be global. They have to be global. So we live in global times, in global age, and spiritually that means that all spiritual traditions are available to us today. And by genuine spiritual traditions, I mean Hinduism, Buddhism, mystical Christianity, Taoism, and Sufism, which is a mystical branch in Islam. So all of those teachings are available to us today, and they are waiting its full utilizations. Also, we belong to what might be called global culture or global modern world or global civilization. So there's lots of things from that stream that can be utilized on the path. Think about technology, what we are doing now. Think about psychology. Think about science. Think about free speech. Think about individual freedom, etc. So there's a legacy of modern world that can be utilized on the path, and that legacy is a part of this global world. But let me give you an example how global spiritual practice can look like. Imagine you're having a Christian community that practices prayer and it's inspired by serving God and serving world. So very much Christian container. But at some point they discover benefits of Buddhist-oriented or Hindu-oriented meditation. So all of a sudden we have a Christian community adding a layer of global spirituality into their daily lives and daily practices. Or here is another example. Let's say there is a Buddhist practitioner that at some point discovers benefits of modern day psychology. So that Buddhist practitioner meditates and does other Buddhist stuff, but also introduces some shadow work and some trauma work and some repression work into his spiritual practice. Or let's say there is a Sufi community that is tech savvy and that uses biofeedback and neurofeedback for their well-being and even awakening. So with those examples you get the sense what I'm talking about. It's already happening, and I put a lot of those stuff together in my first book, Spirit Tech Basic Principles. So check it out. I'm going to put the link into description. The second feature, I think, of genuinely modern day spiritual teaching or spirituality should be that it should be what I call holistic or integral. So if you pay attention to human dimension, you can easily recognize that we are actually holistic beings or integral beings. So we go to work, we have family, we have social life, we have virtual life, we have hobbies, we travel, we learn various languages, etc. So we enter those various dimensions of human realm and navigate them successfully. Another way to recognize our holistic and integral nature is to acknowledge that our own being, our own individual being, consists of body, mind, and spirit. And in my book I use this phrase a lot. You have body, you have mind, but you're essentially spirit. And a lot of practitioners actually resonated with that. So what that means is that on the spiritual path, if you do what I call body, mind, spirit cross practice, the results are better than if you're doing only spiritual practice. And here is an example. So let's say you have 20 hours devoted weekly to your spiritual practice. So instead of, let's say, meditating 20 hours throughout the week, what I suggest you do to make your practice integral and holistic is to devote 10 hours to spiritual practices, 5 hours to body practices, and 5 hours to mind practices. So that way you are touching base with all the elements of your being, and that actually enhances and speeds up your spiritual growth. So what would be body practices? Sleep, healthy eating, sex, any kind of exercise, any kind of movement. So there is plenty of stuff out there in the global world for us to utilize. What would be mind practices? Again, plenty of them. You can study, you can read, you can have meaningful discussion with friends or your partner or family. You can work on your mindset, you can work on your worldview, you can do some psychological healing work, etc. So lots of practices to cultivate mind on the path. And finally, what would be spiritual practices? You know that as spiritual practitioners: meditation, prayer, contemplation, kirtan, satsang, yoga, movement, etc. So body, mind, spirit cross practice is really the key. I've been doing it for about 20 years. Results are amazing. Every student, every client that I recommended this and that utilize this, they're blown away by the results. Takes a little bit of dedication and organization, but once that integral and holistic program kicks in within your mind, body, and spirit, it's truly amazing. So that was number 2. Number 3 is that spiritual teachings of modern day should be engaged types of spiritual teachings. So for about 2000 years, the dominant form of spirituality was the ascetic one. So you're interested in spirituality, you go to monastery, you study with the master, you have awakening, you have the life of spirit, but there's not a lot of engagement with the world. Since the 60s in the West and globally, a new form of spirituality emerged, and I call it engaged spirituality. So what's basically happening, and I've been observing that very carefully, is that spirit is going towards life. So spirit entered family, spirit entered relationships, spirit is entering education. I've been teaching mindfulness in middle schools for a while. So spirit is entering in even politics and government. Why not? So spirit is entering workplace too. So there is a genuine merging of spirit and life that never happened in the history of the mankind, and we are all part of it. So new emerging spirituality is actually engaged spirituality. We are awake in the world and we are contributing. It's necessary because we live in the time of crisis evolution, so everybody's contribution matters. So that was number 3. And finally, number 4, each spiritual teaching in the present day, in the modern day, should be real, or what I sometimes call in my book, really real. And here is what I mean by that. So if you really, from a spiritual standpoint, investigate reality, you will realize that there are actually 2 dimensions of reality: ultimate reality and relative reality, or absolute reality and relative reality. So ultimate reality is pure spirit, and relative reality is all the manifestations. So this glass is relative reality because it has name and form. However, there is also formless reality through which we can recognize by spiritual practice, actually by becoming that ultimate reality. That's that Atman, that is Brahman from Hinduism. So if we want to analyze spirit, which some people use interchangeably with reality, from a spiritual standpoint, we can also discover two basic dimensions of spirit, what I call in my books unmanifest and manifest. So there are two dimensions of spiritual reality, and I think a genuine spiritual teaching in 21st century should point out and master both. So we have some spiritual teachings in spiritual traditions that overemphasize emptiness or pure consciousness, but it's not that engaged with the world. And we have some spiritual systems and religious systems, New Age and many forms of religion, that are actually caught up in the world but haven't built pathways towards liberation, towards our formless self or formless consciousness. So in my book, Spirit X Basic Principles, I really developed, so to speak, a program to glimpse and stabilize in this formless consciousness, but also to navigate various realms of reality very skillfully. And that's my teaching, Spirit X Ways and Codes. So as I said, I put the link down in the description, so please check out for more information. So those are those four characteristics or features that I think are crucial, that I developed in my own teaching, but I'm noticing other authors and teachers are aware of them and utilizing them too. I hope this helps. That's all for this video. If this is helpful, please consider liking and subscribing. I'm definitely working on developing a YouTube channel. Let me know in the comments what you think and if you have any further questions. And I'll see you in the next video, which is coming in 2 or 3 days. Thank you very much and sending blessings to everyone. Bye bye.